There are basically three major power systems, roughly speaking. North America, Europe, and Northeast Asia, now joined to India and South Asia and to Southeast Asia. There are lots of integration among them. They're not distinct, but they are identifiable power centers. Separate from them are the major oil producers, which have no power but have a lot of financial resources. Europe and the United States are roughly comparable in every dimension except military force. The United States, its military spending now exceeds substantially that of the rest of the world combined, and nothing is even close. The Northeast Asia is probably the most dynamic economic region in the world, China-based, Japan, South Korea. It has amassed enormous financial resources. In fact, it's Japan, China, and to some extent the oil producers have been sustaining the U.S. economy. How long they'll do it is unclear. The primary regions of there's plenty of violence all over the world, but the most extreme regions are the Middle East region, mainly because that's the major energy. These are the major sources of energy for the world. The U.S. invasion of Iraq is the central part of it, but not the only one. And it's a very volatile area. There could be a confrontation between the U.S. and Iran, U.S. attack on Iran, which one well-known British military historian, Corelli Barnett, said that would be World War III, and he could be right. There are other tendencies developing. South America, as you mentioned, is actually for the first time in its history since the Spanish invasion, is making significant moves towards integration. The society has been countries have been very separate from one another. They've been ruled by tiny, wealthy, mostly Europeanized elites related to the imperial societies, not to one another. And they're moving towards a degree of integration, hence independence. And they're also beginning slowly to tackle some of their immense internal problems. There's a huge inequality. In fact, some of the most exciting democratic experiments, maybe the most exciting, are taking place right there, especially in Bolivia, where the majority of the population, the indigenous majority, has, for the first time, entered the political arena in a serious way, elected their own candidate from their own ranks. It's leading to a possible threat of secession by the white Europeanized elite, which has always run the country and has most of the resources. And there's plenty of sources of conflict there, but important development in many ways the most exciting area of the world, I think. There's the Bank of the South, which is broadly supported, could be an alternative development fund, just as the Asian Development Bank could be. There's what happens in China and India will be, of no doubt, of enormous significance. They do have high growth rates. A lot of people have been taken out of poverty. It should be recalled that they've succeeded in doing this largely by violating the rules of the game that the Western powers have attempted to establish. That's no surprise to economic historians, because that's the way the developed countries got rich themselves. But they're now significant players on the world scene, particularly China, however, with extraordinary internal problems. Hundreds of millions of people either destitute or in serious economic problems, enormous ecological problems. India, which has has developed significantly in the last, actually starting in the 1980s, but particularly in the last 15 years, still ranks, I think, about 125th or so in the United Nations Human Development Index. It's a scene of enormous poverty and destitution. So they have tremendous internal problems to deal with. They're nowhere near the level of the rich, developed Western European, North American countries, but shifting power in the world scene, doubtless. These are some of the China happens to be the center of a developing strategic system, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which, based in China, includes Russia with its quite enormous energy resources and other resources, India and Pakistan and Iran are associated. They're admitted observers. The Central Asian states are part of it. The United States has sought observer status but been rejected. The organization has called on the U.S. to leave the region, Central Asia and other regions. And this is a slowly emerging power bloc that some regard as potentially a counterpart to NATO, with substantial internal resources, Russian particularly, but if Iran joins in, even more, and reaching out towards even towards Saudi Arabia, which is the jewel in the crown as far as energy resources are concerned. It's doubtless a source of enormous concern to the United States, which is trying pretty desperately to set up a Sunni counterforce and to somehow control Iraq, which has turned into a total catastrophe. These are some, not all, of the major live issues on the global scene.